think there's a huge amount of support around 12 to 13,000, but I do ultimately think we go down, we break 10,000 just for a short amount of time, maybe touching the 9,000 level. One of the interesting research pieces that I did was comparing FTX to the Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008. And what's fascinating about that, and you can see the mirroring, right? You had this major exchange, which in the crypto world is kind of like a big bank. And then you had Lehman Brothers, which was a big bank in '08. And what's interesting is that it took about 5 to 6 months following Lehman for the markets to actually bottom out. So what that does is it gives us a potential point of where to look for a bottom. And the question is, how much lower does Bitcoin go? And from the Lehman Brothers collapse, when it filed for bankruptcy in '08, it basically caused the S&P to drop about 40 to 50%. Well, if we take 40 to 50% away from the current price, we're down, but right around that $9,000 level. So for me, that's kind of isolating. As we get closer, I think that's what we're looking for in terms of a bottom on Bitcoin. So again, I guess there's a positive and a negative, right? The negative is we still have lower to go. The positive is we're actually starting to get close to what I would call a near bottom. And I think that's exciting. You know, if you're someone like me that loves Bitcoin in the future, it's exciting to be like, okay, it's almost done. Yeah, a little bit more pain and it's going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of people when we get down to 10 or 12 that are going to be panicking, but be calm about it. Make sure that the thesis for Bitcoin is still intact, which to me it is. And therefore you think logically and you're a buyer at those levels.
If someone, let's say, is a long-term holder, they haven't fully cashed out everything that they were holding through the bull market, should they cash out now, wait for 9,000 or?
No, honestly, at this point, I think it's too late. You know, and again, you have to be anyone who's in that position that's in at 50 or 40 or 60, whatever it may be. I think at this point, you're down from 69 to 16. You know, maybe it goes to 9. That would be kind of a worst case. Maybe it goes to 7. But, you know, you're now dealing with such a small amount of a drop comparatively from 69 to 16 that it probably doesn't make sense to risk missing the bottom to exit now just in hopes of saving yourself a few thousand per coin. So for me, I mean, one of the things that I've done is I've actually started accumulating, you know, and again, basically what I do is once we got below 20, I started to say, okay, how much money do I want to invest in Bitcoin? And I basically decided on an X amount, you know, a certain amount, and then I divided it up into 5 or 6 portions, equal portions. And essentially what I do is I said, okay, well, once we got below 20, I put 1/6 to work. And then basically every 3,000 down, I'll just put another, you know, 1/6 essentially to work. And that's that kind of dollar cost averaging where even I'm starting to buy in a little bit, just nibbling, because I don't know specifically if my downside target is going to be hit to the penny and I don't want to miss the next bull run, which I do think will come. I think, again, as soon as you get that regulation, think about this. Imagine all of a sudden you knew how these companies were allocating their funds, how you knew if they were leveraging, you know, I mean, it's so amazing to even think about that transparency. And now look at it from a perspective of a big investor or a pension fund where they can now say, okay, these Bitcoins or this Bitcoin or this Ethereum, there's going to be specific, you know, due diligence done, revealed, like rules. Now I can actually put some of my pension fund in that Bitcoin, let's say. And it just opens up this whole world of investing and investors that can be epically big for Bitcoin. And I think the next run takes us well over 100,000. All the damage yet. It's, you know, just filtering out like you mentioned. And I think you have to keep in mind that a lot of these firms have crypto on their balance sheet. And if they're forced into bankruptcy, they're going to be forced to sell that crypto. And it's going to continue to put pressure. In addition, I think the biggest negative for crypto right now is that after FTX kind of blew up, there's really no big money that's going to feel comfortable going into any cryptocurrencies at this point until we have regulation, until we have transparency. You saw it with Kevin O'Leary with his comments. He was basically like, I'm headed straight for Washington to get regulation going because I will not go within a 10-foot pole of essentially another crypto at this basis based on the fact that he lost so much money. And so, again, we have to kind of keep in mind that that's going to be a headwind. Then you throw in the fact that I don't think the stock market has bottomed as well. And if we see more downside in risk assets, then we could also see Bitcoin under pressure. So all these things will push it down. But the question is, at what point does it bottom? And I think the biggest thing is, like, even with me saying 9,000-ish, I'm not waiting for 9,000 to start accumulating. In fact, I've already accumulated a small amount, because if we don't hit 9,000, I don't want to be left holding zero when we start our way back up. So what I'm doing is basically I'm spacing out my buys. Every 3,000 down, I'm just buying the equivalent of like a 1/6 position, equaling a 6/6. And essentially that gives me that ability to dollar cost average in all the way down. Even if it goes to like 5,000, I'll still dollar cost average in down there.
Yeah.
But what investors have to realize too is that as you have the Fed continuing to tighten, now it looks like inflation is starting to kind of subside a little bit. So the Fed may not have to hike 75 basis points in December. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 25. We'll have to see. But there's no doubt that as we go down, in the stock market, because of the Fed kind of contracting the monetary system, there's going to be more hurt in the crypto markets. And I fully expect more bankruptcies. My only hope is that FTX was the biggest, right? Let's get that one out of the way. If some smaller ones go bust, it's never a good thing, but at least it's not as earthquake-like as the FTX one. So there's no doubt that the Fed is doing this, and it's part of the reason why this bear market cycle could be just a little bit longer. You don't have the Fed printing money. I think the biggest thing that gets us out of this bear market is regulation. And who would have thunk a year ago or 2 years ago you'd ever say that regulation gets us out of a bear market in the crypto markets? But if you're going to attract big money back into crypto, which, let's be honest, big money is going to drive the price up, right? They're all buying, hundreds of billions, if not more, buying. You need that regulation. You need that transparency. And I think even with, like, just think about a small investor. A small investor has a hard enough time picking buying opportunities in crypto where they're going to make money, not lose. But they also have to worry about, is my exchange where my money is it going to be in business tomorrow? That shouldn't be an issue. I mean, especially in this day and age, where we have all this technology and everything, it shouldn't be an issue. And I hope they fix it, and I think they will. What I am doing, I'm continuing to kind of slowly accumulate gold. I think that at some point we're going to continue to see this dollar pullback, and that's going to be very, very good for gold. I also think that eventually crypto is the place you want to kind of hide. And again, when I say crypto, I mainly mean Ethereum and Bitcoin. But I think that those will eventually shift from being risk assets to more of a safety hedge as the economy gets worse and worse and worse, right? So as the economy gets worse, these companies in the S&P are going to make less and less money as the consumer pulls back. But crypto really doesn't have that factor, right? I mean, Bitcoin is just a store of value in a inflationary environment. And I think that's going to be the key is, once you hit this low on Bitcoin, let's say 9,000, I think it turns into an asset that actually starts going up as the economic activity starts to go down.